It's time we slip back into the dark mind of Hannibal Lecter with Hannibal, the third instalment of the Red Dragon book series. This is a continuation of Silence of the Lambs. So where we had Silence of the Lambs and it had no tie-in to Red Dragon, it had no link to Red Dragon beyond the Hannibal Lecter character, this is actually a sequel to Silence of the Lambs. So our main protagonists are Hannibal Lecter himself. Remember, he's now free. He escaped the institution at the end of Silence of the Lambs. And Clarice Starling, the FBI agent who he was liaising with in the attempt to catch Buffalo Bill. And this takes place 7 years after the events of Silence of the Lambs. So Clarice Starling is now a fully qualified FBI agent. At the start of the book, she gets into a drugs bust that goes wrong. A drug lord dies while holding a baby, and she gets wrapped up in her disciplinary hearings and stuff to do with that. And that prompts Hannibal Lecter to sort of emerge from hiding. For the first time in 7 years, he makes contact with Clarice Starling. That in turn piques the interest of a corrupt detective where he's hiding in Florence, Italy, who then makes a deal with a former nemesis and a former patient of Hannibal Lecter, Mason Verger. And Mason Verger is the main antagonist of this novel. So Mason Verger is a corrupt, sadistic, paedophile, millionaire, completely rich. He can bribe anybody, he can do anything with money, and he is the epitome of villain. He just screams villain in this novel. And I think he's probably Thomas Harris's best antagonist yet that I've read so far. He's absolutely despicable. He's scarred from a therapy session he had with Dr. Lecter years ago, where Hannibal Lecter gave him some psychoactive drugs and then convinced him to tear off his own face. He's completely scarred. He's got, long coils of hair around his chest. He's got this eel in a tank that just swims around constantly. And he is just every single trope you can think of when you think villain is wrapped up in Mason Verger. And that is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that to be negative. It is so cool, it's unreal. I love the character of Mason Verger. I love to hate Mason Verger. Hannibal Lecter, who was very much an antagonist, if you will, in the previous two books, becomes a protagonist. He is the focus of this book. And the way that Thomas Harris tries to make you kind of empathise with Hannibal Lecter is he sort of humanises him. He makes the monster human. In the previous two books, the monster was very, very inhuman. Very, very, it was easy to hate an individual who had been locked in a cage for years because he killed and ate a bunch of people. But what this does, I'm trying not to spoil anything for you guys if you haven't read it, what this does is it gives a little bit of backstory to Hannibal Lecter's character, and it makes you feel almost a twinge of sympathy for him. You still hate everything he does and everything he's done, and you still think he's a violent, evil, insane person. But it gives a little bit of backstory and it makes you kind of reevaluate Hannibal Lecter. And Hannibal Lecter's story arc here, it comes full circle. So he's gone from being completely mysterious, completely terrifying individual, locked in a cage, who can manipulate anybody with his mind, almost superhuman, inhuman, to being almost human. Still evil incarnate, but almost a human tinge to that. And it's a very, very fascinating story. Again, themes of insanity and society pop up again and again. Like they did in the previous two books, they had a theme that everybody, to some degree, was psychotic. Remember, we had characters in the previous two books who would manipulate people. Jack Crawford manipulated Will Graham to get him to go after the Tooth Fairy in the original book. He manipulated Clarice Starling to get her to go after and go and talk to Hannibal Lecter to go after Buffalo Bill. So the idea is that everybody is a psychopath in some way, shape or form. It's just that Hannibal Lecter is very, very direct. He's a more traditional psychopath. He will kill people and eat them, whereas other people exhibit their psychopathic tendencies in other ways. For instance, Paul Krendler is so psychopathic and so flawed as a character and so misogynistic that he will actively seek to destroy Clarice Starling's reputation and her career. And people, every character somewhere has got some kind of something going on that where they can exhibit psychopathic behaviour, where they can exhibit sociopathic behaviour, and that's very much a recurring theme in Thomas Harris's works, is that every human being in his novels, if you know where to look, you can find mentally unwell behaviour. It's very, very fascinating, as it is in the previous two books. The character arc of Hannibal Lecter and Clarice Starling, actually, they both come full circle, and again there's this theme that anybody can be insane. Anybody can be mentally unwell. Just all it takes is one bad day for somebody to go completely mad. Again, I'm trying not to ruin anything for you guys, but it's definitely, it's a fine addition to the Red Dragon series, if you want to call it that, the Hannibal Lecter series, the Silence of the Lambs series, whatever you want to call it. It's a fine addition to that saga. I think we've only got one more of these left to go now, and that's Hannibal Rising, which I believe is the origin story of Hannibal Lecter. It's touched upon in here, it's laid out a little bit in here, but obviously that's going to be a lot more fleshed out, a lot more detailed. It's going to actually depict the events that led to the rise of Hannibal Lecter and led him to become the monster that he is in the novels. 100%, definitely I'd give it 85% out of 100. Very, very interesting read. Very, very fascinating to read. You just can't help but feel hooked in by Hannibal Lecter and his relationship that he has with Clarice Starling, and the fact that he's on the run. It's a lot more fun to see Hannibal Lecter free and to see him let loose on the world. Where he was in an institution, he could only do so much. When he's out now, he's free, he's broken free, he's on the run. He can do whatever he likes, and it's fascinating to see the mind of Hannibal Lecter let loose. So 85% out of 100. Definitely go and read that, guys. That's Hannibal from the Hannibal series. I'll see you next time.